Special Counsel John Durham's final report is naming names, and big ones at that. Some of the names you know, and some of the names cross multiple political scandals. Congressional correspondent Kilmeny Dukart has been digging through these 306 pages. Kilmeny?
Greta, good evening. Calls to reform the FBI and the Justice Department have only grown louder here on Capitol Hill amid accusations of a double standard when it comes to the FBI and how it actively pursued this investigation, launching Crossfire Hurricane, yet restricting investigations into Clinton's campaign. The report cites examples it says are markedly different from the FBI's actions with respect to other highly significant intelligence it received from a trusted foreign source pointing to a Clinton campaign to vilify Trump by tying him to Vladimir Putin so as to divert attention from her own concerns relating to her use of a private email server. And these were the individuals that knew about it. The report says CIA Director Brennan subsequently briefed President Obama and other senior national security officials on the intelligence of Clinton's approved plan. Democratic Congressman Adam Schiff is also mentioned in the report 3 times for having perpetuated the false theory. Greta, a short time ago, I asked House Speaker Kevin McCarthy to weigh in on the Durham report.
Mr. Speaker, you had pledged if the GOP takes the majority in the House that you would investigate the findings of the Durham investigation. Now that the report has been released, what does accountability look like?
Well, a number of things. We're asking Durham to come in and testify so we can look at it more. It really raises the question about Adam Schiff. You remember when he told the American people he had proof? Remember when he told them he didn't know the whistleblower? And what he put America through and openly lied to us, and now it's proven in this as well? It raises a lot of questions about his character, his standing inside of Congress, or whether he should even be in Congress.
And the salacious rumor that Trump engaged in a sexual act at this Moscow hotel, the report reveals that never happened, even though the allegation made it into the Steele dossier. And who was behind it? The report identified Charles Dolan, a public relations executive with ties to the Clintons. As for Igor Danchenko, a Russian national and source for the Steele dossier, the report states that the FBI wanted to pay him $300,000 for his silence after the information he provided to the Bureau was deemed to be not credible. Republican Congressman Jim Jordan, who chairs the House Judiciary Committee, says accountability may come in the form of appropriations and using the power of the purse to control these agencies. Greta.
Kilmeny Dukart, thank you. Now, this is what enrages the American people, and I don't blame them. It's special rules for special people. Who is the special person who got the special rules? Former FBI Director James Comey. You may recall, in May of 2017, former President Donald Trump fired then Director of the FBI, James Comey. And what did Comey do? Did he walk out the door with his head high? No, he got dirty. He took personal memos that he kept in personal safe, and he leaked them to a law professor friend in New York to then leak them to the press. That's about as dirty as it gets. He didn't want his fingerprints on it. And he is the former director of the FBI. 2 years later, the Inspector General released a report saying that former Director Comey failed to live up to his responsibility to protect sensitive law enforcement information. The Inspector General went on to say, by not safeguarding sensitive information obtained during the course of his FBI employment and by using it to create public pressure for official action, Comey set a dangerous example for the over 35,000 current FBI employees and the many thousands more former FBI employees who similarly have access to or knowledge of non-public information. At least he could have openly given it to the press, but no, he didn't want his fingerprints on it, not his name. So he laundered it through a friend to do his dirty work. Let me point out the obvious. Comey was in charge of the FBI at headquarters. Meanwhile, and let me repeat this 1,000 times over, thousands of good men and women serving as special agents from coast to coast 24/7 are protecting us while the top of the FBI does this. Our next guest was mentioned in John Durham's final report. In September 2020, former Director of National Intelligence John Ratcliffe declassified information concerning Hillary Clinton. The report reads in part that intelligence concerned the purported approval by Hillary Clinton on July 26, 2016, of a proposal from one of her foreign policy advisors to vilify Donald Trump by stirring up a scandal claiming interference by the Russian security services. DNI John Ratcliffe declassified the following information about the Clinton plan intelligence and conveyed it to the Senate Judiciary Committee. Former Director of National Intelligence John Ratcliffe joins me. Good evening, sir. Nice to see you. And what happened after you gave that information to the Senate Judiciary Committee? What did they do with it?
Well, I think it's also important to talk about, Greta, what happened before. You remember I was in Congress, I was on the Intelligence Committee, and for years I heard Jim Comey and John Brennan and James Clapper intimate that there was intelligence that I wasn't privy to as an Intelligence Committee member that supported, this idea of collusion between the Trump campaign and Russia. And so it was when I became Director of National Intelligence, I said, I want to see it all. Show me everything. And what I found was that there wasn't any evidence of Trump-Russia collusion, something that John Durham stated in his report when I shared this information with him. So, from the very beginning, what was most disturbing was it was obvious that both our law enforcement and our intelligence community were aware that this was, as Donald Trump had accurately characterized it, a hoax against him. So, I did provide it to the Senate Intelligence Committee, but as you know, Greta, the media really didn't cover this, and they really tried to discount it and say, well, Director Ratcliffe is a Trump appointee. He's just cherry-picking information. He's trying to support President Trump, and, this isn't to be believed, and it really wasn't even publicized very much. So the Durham report really serves as confirmation. John Durham puts in there exactly what I told him, the intelligence that I provided as is. And what's important, Greta, is this. Attorney General Merrick Garland did not edit this report one iota. If there was anything inaccurate about this, he had the authority to edit it or change it. He didn't because he couldn't. You don't hear anyone saying from within the Department of Justice or the FBI that what was in the Durham report is simply not true, because it is true.
I guess, and I keep going back to this thing, what I find so offensive is because I really do admire the FBI. I work with the FBI. I've got, I'm working in a case right now with some FBI and something else. And to have this at the top of the FBI, James Comey, and even Christopher Wray issuing sort of a weak little statement that we're cleaning things up without, the credibility of the FBI to me is really, at question tonight, at the top. But it really hurts everybody down the line who's doing his or her job. So it's particularly bad. All right. Did you ever ask, has anyone ever asked former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton if indeed she authorized a report or anything to try to vilify Donald Trump to hide or to somehow overshadow her email server problem? Did anyone ever ask her?
Not that I know of, Greta. As the Director of National Intelligence, I didn't have investigative authority. I, collect and analyze intelligence on behalf of the intelligence community. The only avenue that I had was to provide it to John Durham. Now, I met with John Durham multiple times when I was the Director of National Intelligence and said to him, Special Counsel, look, there's no intelligence here to support it. The only intelligence we have is this Hillary Clinton plan. And, and frankly, he has, spent the last few years investigating that and, bringing some prosecutions, but, obviously with limited success. But, as he says in his own report, some transgressions don't rise to criminal in nature, and there's only so much he could do.
Do you have any more information on that meeting at the White House in August of 2016 with President Obama, former Vice President Biden, now President Biden, CIA Director Brennan, the Attorney General was Eric Holder was by remote, and they were discussing the possibility that Trump was somehow in collusion with the Russians. But according to the handwritten notes of CIA Director Brennan, they also brought up the issue of whether or not that the Hillary Clinton campaign was trying to create a scandal to falsely put attention on Trump. Do you have any more information to add to that that's in the report?
Yeah, I mean, again, much of John Durham's report includes the intelligence that I gave him, and I think the operative sentence that he had in his report that says, his finding that U.S. intelligence and U.S. law enforcement had no evidence of collusion between the Trump campaign and Russia, and that was clear from the beginning, and it's why I declassified John Brennan's notes was, it was important. I thought the only way the American people would find it out is if I declassified information that, frankly, as a member of Congress on the Intelligence Committee, I should have known about years ago. And so, you know, I declassified that information and provided it to John Durham, you know, to further investigate that. But yes, absolutely, President Obama, Vice President Biden, all of the folks that were listed there, the main takeaway here, Greta, is they all knew. They knew there was no Russia collusion, and they knew that this was an effort, essentially a hoax, an investigation in search of a crime that didn't exist, that essentially they attempted to frame Donald Trump. Now, they weren't successful in 2016 in changing the outcome of the election, but some of those same people are the ones that we're now talking about on Russia hoax too. Clapper and Brennan, along with Morell and Blinken, putting together the letter from former intelligence officials saying that Russia was responsible for Hunter Biden's laptop, when in fact that I put out intelligence saying that that was not the case. So they tried in 2016 and failed. They tried in 2020 and perhaps succeeded. You know, my concern is what's going to happen in 2024.
All right, we only have 20 seconds left. Tell me this, all those 51 that you just mentioned on that letter, do they still have security clearances?
If they had them, they still have them, because no steps have been taken to remove them. Should they have them? No, absolutely not. I mean, Greta, there was absolutely a domestic disinformation campaign, really by definition election interference.
It was an inside job.
They misled the American people intentionally.
You know, I say that they said it was a Russian misinformation. I said it was an inside job. They did it, but I'll be sarcastic about that one. Anyway, former Director of National Intelligence, John Ratcliffe, thank you, sir.